It takes a couple of seconds, a little 10-second delay on YouTube. Okay. And we are live, everyone. What's up, world? You're watching the Joy Daily Show with your host, Joy Daily. And today I have a very special guest joining us after coming from the trenches of the front lines of the protests in New York. We got Majestic here. He's a very talented photographer. Tell us a little bit about what was your, well, first of all, just introduce yourself to the world, of course, and tell us what was your motivation to, put yourself at risk like that, going out and protesting in New York City.
Hi, I'm Majestic, photographer, director, entrepreneur. I love to create. That's my bottom line. That's what makes me happy. I feel blessed to wake up every morning and just have the ability to create. I live my motto of life is basically create or die. And this particular time and place, wow, it number one was beyond emotional. Being able to witness what transpired over the last few days. I knew myself before going outside that the level of animosity towards the situation, that it would not be positive for me to just go outside to march me myself. So when I took the initiative to go outside, I grabbed my camera and I said, if I have the ability to create, I will be able to use that as a vessel for me to release some of these emotions. And as I approached the first protest at the Barclays Center was the first one I went to. As I approached, I was overran with emotion, being on the front line, and that was from the amount of support of people that did not look like me. They were there in masses, they were there in droves, signs, and it was very uplifting to see something at a time like this, that a culmination of Black and brown and white and whatever, your melanin denomination was being able to be shown and stand in a solidarity toward a common cause that day. So I definitely felt it was my duty on behalf of the skill set I have to bring my camera and capture those moments.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I was wondering, was your motivation more so driven for you to capture the moment than for you to actually participate in the protest? Or was it just like you wanted to just do both?
Oh, see, like for me, that was the crazy dynamic, because I wanted to be there in the moment, me physically. But like I said, I know myself, and I would have to busy myself, because in having conversations with my friends throughout the years, just protesting and screaming and yelling is not enough, because I was always raised to respect violence and what someone can cause and inflict, you yourself or someone else on you, is basically a basis to be respectful as I deal with people in daily life. And to stand there for me to scream and yell against someone that uses violence to oppress people like me, I just knew that wasn't going to be enough. But I wasn't going to partake in anything foolish enough to be used against us.
Right.
So I know grabbing my camera and that would be my way for me to show and also get the frustrations I had out, was to level it off with creativity.
Right. Now, what do you think inspired so many non-Black protesters? Because, some people would say, this isn't their fight. So why were so many of them out there risking their lives, risking going to jail? What do you think?
I think it's a myriad of things. Number one, we all have this, and it connects us.
Mhm.
But now, especially in New York, one thing, being a native New Yorker, that seems to tick us off is the high influx of gentrification.
Mhm.
But for years, I was saying, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because now people are getting to live in neighborhoods they wouldn't, usually travel to be in. But now people are living amongst each other and learning from each other. I remember growing up in New York, when you would have sometimes some white guys moving in and come through the hood, they say, "Hey, what's up, homeboy?" and put up their hand and give five, and trying to give me a five. Now in these days, you can walk down the street and someone says hello, and I'll say hello. So certain stigmas and stereotypes are being shed, because now people are living amongst each other. And I think it would be very difficult for you to move on to someone's block, especially in New York City, and be quiet, knowing that your neighbor is hurting. And as New Yorkers, we take care of our blocks. We don't let someone come into your house and rob your house if we know you're away on vacation. You live on our block. So
Now,
that sense of community, I think, is really what empowered people to come out.
right, and they say that New York is like the biggest melting pots, so many different cultures all living together. But this fight for Black Lives Matter, some people would say it's a race war. Some people would say it's a war against the police and the government and authority. What are your thoughts on that? Who do you think this war is against that we're fighting in Black Lives Matter?
It's all those. It's the totality of all those problems, and then some of those that you haven't even named as problems. At the end of the day, I don't, subscribe to how we're all different races when we're all one race, and that's the human race.
That's
But
right.
that video has to speak to the humanistic element, even if you are a complete bigot, even if you are a racist, or you don't have many interaction with people of color. That video was so blatant and just so sickening
Mhm.
that if you didn't feel something inside just for another human being, then there's something definitely psychologically wrong with you, and
Right.
it gave people also opportunity to question themselves and look and take a deeper introspection into yourself,
Right.
what you were awarded. So this war definitely is both against, those who use race as a weapon, and also the police, because the police are enforcing it. And a lot of people on the police force, sad to say, they have internal stigmas which they grow up with, and there's no psychological test for you to become this officer. There's more hours in becoming a cosmetologist than is becoming a police officer.
Now we're going to get into some of the photographs you took were just absolutely incredible.
Thank
Um, some of them look like, they were, it was violence going on. Now, you were there firsthand. Did you witness any, what you would call police brutality as you were
Yeah,
out there?
yes, I witnessed a fair amount of police aggression, of police brutality, and it just wasn't from Caucasian officers. I've witnessed African Americans, Hispanic officers, gung ho and ready to hit. I've watched
Did
African.
you see officers hitting anyone, like actually physically
Oh yes,
hitting people?
I've seen hitting. They was hitting. I got hit. I got
Are
hit in
you
my back.
serious?
Yeah, I got hit in my back in Union Square. When you see some of the videos where the fires were going on, I got hit in my back. Pushed a number of times, but definitely was able to maneuver around that from any type of serious injury or being, arrested.
Arrested? Because how were they going about arresting people?
It, it all is down to what they felt like doing. If they felt like you had a voice, they may bump you or just hit you or just grab you. If you were next to someone and they couldn't tell what an object was thrown, they may just grab you. There was a little Caucasian girl, maybe about 5'2", standing next to me, and these officers started pushing by a gate, and they just started grabbing people, the closest person, and the officer's watch flew off his wrist. detective guy. And she just bent down to pick the watch up. And then she was mauled by about 3 police officers once he said, get off that watch. And she was arrested, standing literally no more than 3 inches next to me.
So there was no like rhyme or reason to what they were doing. It was just, it sounds like it was just completely random.
There were a lot of randoms, people that were throwing, they tried to track them down and single those out, but there were a lot of random instances that they were unleashed, definitely in the city, not more so in Brooklyn, but definitely in the city. They were unleashed to swing, to hit, to clear out blocks. Even when people that lived on certain blocks were trying to walk to their house, when they were clearing out a block, that's when the violence would really happen.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen that video of them shoving this really elderly white man on the floor. His head busted open, blood pouring out, and they just like walked over him. How were the police acting when they noticeably injured a person? Was it any like, let's get this person to an emergency room, or was it just like, oh, we're walking over them to the next one?
When I did see something like that, it was mostly people that were being detained that were saying they were injured. And it was basically a lot of shut the fuck up. I don't want to hear it. You shouldn't be out here. I told you to move. But basically, most of the thing they said was shut the fuck up. They didn't want to hear it.
Yo, and these police, I mean, are they trained? I mean, you don't know if they were trained to do this or how to act in a protest, but to me, it just doesn't sound like they were getting like proper instructions on how to like deal with people, like saying shut the fuck up. And we're doing all of this because a police brutally murdered someone in front of a camera. And then that's how they react. I mean, yo, the police are just, I don't even understand it. But right now I want us to take a look at some of this amazing photographs that you took. And I'm going to show some of those right now. And as we're looking at them, if you could just, tell us what was going on during the photograph and just explain a little bit about what we're looking at. Oh no, did it? Hold on a second. What happened here? Give me just a moment to get this up on the screen because I'm not really sure what happened here. Hold on. Okay, it is up on the screen. Oh, okay. Here we go. You didn't see it? All right.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, great. So tell us what's going on in this picture here.
Okay, wow, you went right to it. This here is around the Union Union Square Street station around, I think that's like around 16th or 15th. And this is what was really revealing. And this is another level of what was actually happening outside. These fires were set to police vehicles that night. And this is the first night that the looting began, but this is even before the looting started. Actually, no, this is about the same time around the first looting had started. And these cars were being set on fire, all police vans. But what was interesting was there were a number of individuals that were prepared and came with gas in hand. Not only gas, they looked uniformed, they had spray cans, and they were spraying messages and running around this area. And they seemed to have, some type of strategy that when these fires were lit, they would appear on another block and set these vans on fire.
I don't normally condone arson, but the way these police is going on out here, I feel like there's no other way that you can really like get through to them, that brutality has to stop. Now, what about this photo here? It says, fuck the system.
This is around the same area, the same night, possibly around the same group of individuals that had the gas that came into the city. They were breaking a lot of bank windows at this time. There was no looting around this area here. it was more destruction to banks and police vehicles here.
Wow. And this is the end result of a police car that was burnt.
Correct.
And I mean, as this is happening, what are the police officers doing?
They're chasing people around blocks, and at that point they were spread thin, so they weren't really mobilized, but they were chasing people around. They were trying to hold people back from certain streets so larger groups wouldn't enter the area. So the people that were in this section, they were basically running around, free to be able to set these fires and break these bank windows and spray their messages.
And at this point, were the police outnumbered by protesters?
It was hard to say because the blocks I was going up and down, there weren't many police, but that is the night that I actually got hit with a baton. When they mobilized around the corner, then they were able to have force.
And so you were hit with a baton by a police officer. What was your initial reaction to that? Because I cannot even imagine like the anger that was going through your veins at that time. How did you react to being hit?
I just had to laugh. I was actually filming a video and not taking photos at that time, and it's actually laughed. I just laughed it off because it was like, anything that I've encountered or I've been through, or my personal emotions at the moment, like that one physical interaction wasn't really going to do anything. So I really just had to laugh it off.
It didn't hurt?
No, not at all.
Okay. What about this? This person's being arrested in this photo?
Outside of the Barclays, that's when people began to throw water bottles at the police, and the police were clearing out areas. And that's one of the moments where it's hard to tell if somebody was part of it or they weren't. They were just grabbing people at that point. If you had a voice or you stood in front of them as they charged, they would just grab you. So, there was little discretion to who was getting grabbed at that point.
Now, the crowd was massive. I noticed, is this a photo of a police officer on top of a building?
That's actually on top of the green at the Barclays. Protesters climbed up there and they were filming. Once the protesters got there, the crowd went crazy. People were cheering. They were yelling, and they had to clear them out. And once they cleared them out, they set a cop up there to basically, quote unquote, oversee like an overseer. That's why I like that picture so much. It was just the the parallel of the officer and the overseer at that moment.
And this is a nice one. Fuck 12.
Mm-hmm.
Was that a slogan that you saw written in graffiti a lot throughout this protest?
Well, I'm saying thanks to my fellow, my young Brooklyn brothers, who say they outside. The message is always, fuck 12, and they sprayed that all over the city, and it wasn't just the young brothers. There was little white girls out there with spray crayon screaming fuck 12 and telling cops to suck their dick. I was like, wow, this is a interesting turn of events.
And here's another photograph of a young non-Black girl. Looks like she's being dragged away, arrested or something, right?
Same thing. People asked me if that was Lourdes Leon. I was like, I don't think so.
Now, I do notice that some people had on masks, some people did not have on masks. I'm sure you're aware that New York is like the epicenter of the coronavirus right now. Was that a concern for you? Were you wearing a mask? Were you thinking about possibly, this huge crowd that you could possibly get sick or anything like that with the coronavirus?
I definitely went outside with my mask on. Had my N95 the first day through all night, and I switched over to another mask. But to be honest, that was far from a concern, catching the coronavirus at this point. It solidarity, and what the future generations can learn, or what can be embodied from seeing people come together at this moment was more than anything. And I felt that was the same sentiment throughout the crowd. It was people were there on some fuck Corona, fuck 12, fuck Corona. You know, it's like what the fuck is like racism a cure for the coronavirus now? Like what the hell is going on? And like people were outside, but people outside with a message, and I think that's what spoke volumes to the whole movement, is that there is a global pandemic. People are sick, people are dying, people I know have passed away. And but
Really?
people were out there. They were out there with masks, without masks. It was interesting that the cops were really the ones without the mask. You know, and that's what's like, you police this, but on the same note, you know, so it was
not following their own rules.
not at all. The police, they were the last ones to wear masks. But protesters were there with their masks on, you know, for Corona reasons and other reasons, obviously.
How do you think this protest would have been different if the police were not, you know, bullying people, beating people, forcing people to leave? How do you think that the atmosphere would have been different?
The atmosphere, actually, I don't think it should have been any different. I think it should have been still exactly what it was, to show firsthand to those people who never witnessed police brutality to see that, you know, I too can get it. There was an equal display of baton swinging, no matter what your skin color was. You
Well,
know?
that probably gave people of other races a chance to experience what it's like to be Black.
Right. And like, you know, like, look, you could get it too. You standing with them, you could get it too, you know, because now it's black, white versus blue, you know. So now you can see the full spectrum of, you know, it does happen. People do get brutalized. You know, there are white people that get brutalized, you know, that talk back to the cops. They, you know, just those stories are not as prevalent as the stories that we have. So I don't think it should be any different. I think if it was different, the crowds would have dissipated a lot faster. People wouldn't be out.
It probably wouldn't have been as effective. It definitely would not have been as newsworthy. You wouldn't be seeing it all in the media. I mean, right now, people are talking about this protest way more than they're talking about coronavirus. I mean, it's almost like the coronavirus is gone.
Yeah.
And now it's all about Black Lives Matter. Now, there are people, a lot of people, I've been getting a whole lot of comments about this, saying that all lives matter. It's not fair to other races for us to keep saying Black Lives Matter. Well, what about Hispanic and Asian and white and all these other races? What would you say to those people who think that this should be an all lives matter movement, not a Black Lives Matter?
Well, no one asked you to scream anything. You know, no one even asked you to fight for us. You know, if you wanted to join and you saw that there was a disparity in this country, then this is the time to speak up about it. If it was a all lives matters thing, we wouldn't be having this conversation in the first place. You know, and everyone, you know, does have a fight, as there is this white patriarchal supremacist society. We do live in that suppresses people that are immigrants from other countries, but there is no different indignation from that. We as a people were taken. We lack identity. We lack economic prowess. We lack education, and we're here before, you know, my Latino brothers and sisters from Mexico and South America, before our Asian brothers and sisters came over. We were here, and we were put to work for free. We were killed. We were sodomized. We were raped. And now we're still here as your communities were able to come in here and start businesses inside of our communities. So if you feel that all lives matters, then that is fine. But this is just not the time. This is not that fight right here.
I agree with you 100% about that. Now, how would you say that this Black Lives Matter movement and the protest that you were a part of, how was it different to you from what went on back in the civil rights movement with their protest and the way that they did things? How do you compare the two movements?
Well, to be honest, Um, I feel there's a lot of suck ass motherfuckers that's here during this movement. There were people that were really willing to stand up and be beat and be hit and be hosed and be jailed and not run. You know, this I wasn't alive then, but my parents were. You know, I'm the first generation. I'm of the first generation in my family that quote unquote has all their rights. My mother didn't even have, you know, her right to vote till she was 24 years old. But through the stories that my uncle was able to tell me, my father were able to tell me, is that there was not this flight response. You know, I see when cops press forward, people are just running and they're out. It's like they look fearful. You know, that's probably the times I got hit because I wasn't moving like that. Once you come towards me, I'm not just gonna turn my back and run. I'd rather walk away. You know, that's just not the images that I've seen growing up in the stories that I was told. And you know, though I do appreciate the support from obviously all ethnicities that were out there. I feel the difference is there were leaders missing. There's a lot of young, which the young definitely can carry on the fight, but there were leaders missing. And like I said, there was a lot of people ready to run instead of hold the line.
Do you think that the Black Lives Matter movement lacks leadership? Because if you really think about it, like back in the day, they had Martin Luther King, they had Malcolm X, they had, you know, at least two people that were like super famous and were the face of that movement. Do we have a face for this movement, for Black Lives Matter, or not?
That question, I don't even know who's behind the Black Lives Matter movement per se. I don't even know who's behind it. But I feel that anyone that's a leader is me or someone like me, of my age, of my dynamic, who comes from the era of parents that didn't have the right to vote, but that's still in tune with the new younger generation. You know, so I feel like any one of my peers who share the same intimate, who share the same sentiments, we are the leaders during
Now,
this.
somebody on our YouTube live chat made a comment saying, after 8 days, don't you think the points had been made? Some people are pretty much sick of this protest already. And what do you think about, you know, those people who think that enough is enough, this needs to come to an end? Do you think that this is it? Do you think the point has been made, or should we continue?
There's nothing to do from here on but press on. This is an avenue. This is a whole new wave. Like this support, like I said, this support that was never support here. This is the first time on this planet that this support is felt globally. You know, this is not. So anyone
Everybody is
who thinks
supporting us
that
right now.
thinks in that frame is very small-minded, got the point, and then you obviously are drawing the line in the sand to see where you stand. And you know, that's fine. You want to be over there, go stand over there. But you know, don't come here and chime in. If you feel that's how you feel, then you obviously, you know, if you are of color, then you might have a background that has awarded you a lot of privileges, and you're not in tune with someone who does not have the same.
Absolutely. Now, I know a lot of people, you know, you tune into the news, and instead of seeing like the more positive aspects of this, these protests and this movement, and like you said, all the different races coming together, all they're seeing, all they're showing in the media is the looting, and you know how they're going into these different high-end stores and taking everything. First of all, did you see anything like that happening during the protests that you experienced?
I seen the good, I seen the bad, I seen the ugly. I saw the looting. I was alone the night with the fires. Um, I'll unpack this question. What I said earlier is those fires that were being set were the same people that were opening the stores that night. These people had tools. They were organized. They came with tools to open the.
Did
Now,
you see the race of these people? Was it something that you could see their race,
oh
or?
yeah, I saw them, and they were young white males. And
Wow. Can you say that one more time?
they were young white males that had gas and had power tools and had masks, and they had also had the spray cans.
You
They
see
had
what I'm
all
saying?
those
That
things.
is something that you will never see when you turn on MSNBC, CNN, or any channel. You will never have somebody come up on there like yourself that witnessed it, that was there at the protest, that's telling these people who was opening the stores were white young men with their power tools and all their gear, and they were the ones starting the fire. People need to hear that, because everybody's looking at this protest and they're saying black people just using this as an excuse to rob and steal and act niggerish.
Yeah.
And it's not even us. We want the message to get across. That's what we were doing it for.
We want the message to get across. Like I say, you got to unpack this. Those white dudes led the charge that night. Then the next 2 nights, our young misguided brothers decided they were going to continue this because all they needed was a push. And it's definitely twofold that we have to look at this and see where the narrative gets changed. And if the narrative gets changed, in that obviously we can't rely on the media to paint us in the best picture, or to talk about, okay, this is what you guys do when you protest. Is now we have to change the narrative inside of that for our young misguided brothers, that you can be used as a pawn on television. I don't know how Pop Smoke became the new riot protest music, but rest in peace.
They were playing a lot of Pop Smoke out there, weren't they?
Everybody wanted to say they was outside,
Yeah.
but they didn't understand the total message that when these white dudes would open a store, the white guys didn't go in. They went to the next store and bust the windows and just let them run right in.
This is like groundbreaking information that you just gave us right now. And I haven't heard one person share this information with the world yet. So that's breaking news, everyone. Breaking news right here on the Joy Daily Show. Majestic, thank you so much for sharing that. The world needs to hear that. We're going to promote that. You know what I'm saying? When people want to talk about some, oh, y'all haven't had enough, you ain't looted enough. We're not the ones who started it. And those white guys, do you think they were doing this in the name of Black Lives Matter? Do you think they were just troublemakers? What was their motivation? What do you think that their motivation was? You don't know them personally, so you can't really speak on what they were thinking.
I have no idea to suspect what their motivation was, but like I said, if someone is organized to the point where on the the second night of protests, that people were out, that they had gas and spray cans and tools, that they had a motive, and what their motive was is not the message. Maybe, that you get those fuck the systems, like the picture, and down with the state, you get those messages. Those people have an agenda, and they use this motivation and this opportunity to spread their message and to piggyback on why the system needs to fail. It can be from positive intentions on why they want to, bring down the state and piggyback on it, or it can be very negative. And then you don't really know where these people truly stand. So, that type of attention definitely brings the negativity to the looting, to the other violence where peaceful protesters get arrested because they're in the back throwing rocks and throwing cans and throwing things, but then they fade even deeper into the background. So.
Right, it's like they weren't even there. But do you think that this protest is going to make it so that police officers are going to think twice before they ever murder another Black person? Or do you think that nothing is really going to change?
It's definitely going to take the hair off the trigger. Mm-hmm. It's not going to take the finger off the trigger, but it's going to take the hair trigger off. Let me think about what I'm doing. It's disgusting to see that they're thinking of ways that they can even get away with now these cops turning off their body cams. They were turning off their body cams during the protest. A lot of them weren't wearing body cams, but you can see the light when it's on. The lights were off. A lot of officers were covering their badges now. Talking about they had information from up high to cover their badges. So I definitely think that a lot of them are going to think twice. No, excuse me, they're going to think once. They're obviously not thinking. But I think they'll at least think once before they continue to brutalize further than I guess their initial arrest, or how they pin a subject down.
Now I heard that I'm sure you've heard our president, came on television and basically said that if the protest continues, he's going to deploy the military. What do you think is going? Well, first of all, do you think that that is actually going to happen? And then, secondly, what do you think is going to happen if it does happen and military gets involved? Do you think it's going to result in a lot more people being beaten and brutalized by the authority?
I think if it did happen, definitely, because that extra gun behind you gives the ones on the front line more incentive to hit, to brutalize, because someone has your back and you're covered. If you are fingered or pointed, or someone wants to bring up civil charges against you or the police department. Thankfully, the generals came out yesterday and they spoke, and they condemned his actions. And if anyone knows a little bit about military chain of command, the old generals still have a lot to do with the Army as they bounce ideas off, the current officers in charge. And, they have their own institution and their own respect values. And two generals came out. The one that was the leader of the armed forces in Afghanistan came out and spoke. And General Mattis spoke, and they both condemned those actions by Trump. And Trump seemed his statement last night? I don't think that'll any longer be necessary, past what is going on.
Did you see any police officers that were supporting the movement, supporting Black Lives Matter in any way, or were they all just being pigs?
I can't say that I've seen any supporting it. I've seen photos of officers take knees. I've also seen video of officers take knees to lure people closer, and they shot, cans. But that's like a secondhand video. Firsthand, I did not see anyone outwardly in New York City supporting the movement. I had a chance to speak to a couple officers, just on the side, and they just said, "What do you think we condone those actions that guy did? Nobody here supports that." But that's kind of just where it ended. And they just wanted to say we wouldn't do what that guy did.
But you'll beat somebody with a baton for protesting.
Yeah,
So to me, it's just like, whatever. I can't support any police officer. If I was a police officer right now, I would have to quit or do a desk job. I couldn't be a part of the people that are being so brutal to everyone that's out here just trying to make a statement. Like, that's just me personally. But, I guess a lot of these people that are just like, I'm just doing my job. I'm just following orders.
Yeah. My dad was a police officer.
Wow.
Yeah, like no one would ever know. Like people look at your dad was what? Like,
wow. Yeah, that's like a really big deal. I mean, I'm sure that affected you growing up. Like, you couldn't go hang out and smoke weed like all the other kids.
Well, I played ball. I never really wanted
down
to.
the block.
He made sure that I was aware of a lot of things, maybe before a youngster should have. He really prepared me to be aware. My dad is how do you say? I guess he was an OG and a cop. His brother Howard Powell, Big Uncle Tyrone, very well respected in certain circles in Harlem, still alive to this day. The AZ and Outpost, they know who my uncle is, and my dad was his little brother. So my dad knew always where he came from, but he also later in his career, as he geared to being working with the youth, made sure that the younger generation was prepared to deal with something beyond the institution and criminality that they were faced with. So I got a very interesting education on how to move on the streets and with police officers from a very young age.
And what did your father think about you protesting now?
My father is not with us. He hasn't been with us since I was 17 years old.
Well, I'm so sorry to hear that.
But then
What do
knowing
you
my
think he
dad,
thought in heaven, watching over you? What do you think he was proud of you when you went out and protested?
well, my father was always with the shits. He him and my mom made sure my family celebrates Kwanzaa. Like they're a real reason. Like we celebrate Kwanzaa. I'm not an outright Christian, but I love to celebrate Kwanzaa. It's a family tradition. So he was proud. He was proud of his skin. He was proud to be an officer. He was proud of his brothers. You know, so I can't see why he wouldn't be looking down, smiling like this. Because his fellow officers, like he's calling Uncle Randy, white dude, that was his right hand man. And the 88th precinct, the one that got overran in Brooklyn, that was actually my father's old precinct.
Wow, that's amazing. Advice to young people or anyone that wants to join the protest, that think that they're up for it. What type of advice would you give to somebody who wanted to join this movement, wanted to actually go out like you did and protest?
Do it for the righteous reasons, not because it sounds good. False hope is probably the scariest thing you can give, to know that I look left and I look right today, I got 3,000 people behind me. But as I keep pushing to start looking back, and now it's 200-300, and now to look back it's 50, is the scariest thing. So please, if you're a tourist, and I mean tourist in the terms of you're just here for the moment, I'd rather you stay home. Young people, if you're going to protest and you are there, make sure you're part of a foundation, or you are carrying a fight on another way, or you're supporting an organization who is fighting for change. Don't give us false hope by standing next to me now, today, and tomorrow you're nowhere to be found.
Right. And it's so funny because I got a comment from someone saying, well, why aren't you out in the street protesting? Why are you just making these stupid videos? That kind of offended me, because I feel like just because you're not actually physically out there protesting, that doesn't mean that you can't contribute to the movement. And people can contribute in different ways. You contributed by actually going out there and getting the content, getting the actual footage and the photographs. And my contribution is sharing it with as many people as possible, because this movement would not be a movement if it weren't for people like me and people like you. Everybody can contribute in a different way. And just because you're not actually physically out there, that doesn't mean that you're not contributing. So I say that to the world as well, like contribute in whatever way you can. It could be something as simple as sharing Majestic's story that we're documenting right now, just everything that you went through. To me, this was like a lot of insight that you gave me into the protest that, I would not have been able to have gotten, even if I was there. I might not have even been able to see as much as you did. So I thank you so much for talking to me today, for sharing your story. And I want you to take this opportunity to tell people where they can find you, get in touch with you, see more of your work.
Well, first off, thank you. Because your platform has grown. I've watched your platform grow from the beginning, and keep it on. You're always doing a beautiful thing. And
thank you.
But I'll be out, as long as it's here. And I just want to say this before you can say where you can find my stuff is, let's all march in the right direction. Our cities are one thing, but policies is somewhere else to be made. So please vote in your local elections. Please, that's all where it starts. I've been preaching that since college. Please learn how to vote. Learn the voting quadrant. If you can't, please Google voting quadrant. Learn how to vote and where you should vote. And if you can, and you are someone that moves into a city, change your address so you can vote in the city you live in to help. Because all the people that were around us, that were there, I know were not from this city, were not born in the city, but still have their old addresses. Please change your address. you know, it's big. But keep the fight. And to my young brothers and sisters, if you feel you have the need to educate someone and they're still biased, don't ever be afraid to start the conversation off by saying, fuck you, now we can talk. Because if you're not being heard, it doesn't matter what you say, but just let them know you stand on an equal playing ground. If that's how you are, that's how you are. I'm not here to change it, but fuck you. We can still have a conversation.
Now, are you going back out to protest anymore?
I'm outside, you know, I'm outside connecting with people, connecting with creators, thinking of way projects can be not just visual, but interactive.
Right.
I have a film background, Temple University. Yeah, not just, I don't want things just to be visual, you know, I wanted things to be interactive. So, well, we're thinking of creative ways to change certain gazes of individuals. Not can't say change, but spark the conversations that can happen from art and the different forms of that meeting. So that's where the rest of my protest lies in the immediate future. But when it's time to go to Washington, I'm out there.
Yeah, Washington, I don't know if you've seen, but our mayor just painted Black Lives Matter on the street leading to the White House. And they've also changed the name of the block to Black Lives Matter. So I was very happy to see that. We have a Black mayor and she's doing it up for Black people. Now, I would love to hear Trump's thoughts on that. And I'm sure he's gonna have something to say about that. But thank you again. Make sure you tell us where we can find you.
All right, you can find me on Instagram. It's at Majestic Killam. It's MAJKILLEUM on Instagram. That's basically, you can find a lot of my stuff. Other than that, I'm an entrepreneur as well. The rest of my information is on there. My catering company is a minority and women-owned business. We are MWBE. Please support. That's at Elevate Cater NYC. You know, we have an amazing head chef. And we just pushing, you know, we are pushing through the COVID, pushing through everything else. But I'm not hard to find. I'm pretty responsive to people. So if you reach out, I'll be more sure than to hit you back.
All right. Thanks so much, Majestic. Please be safe in these streets. I'm definitely going to be checking back with you to see what other great content that you are gathering from these protests. And just please, please, please be safe out there, okay? Do not get arrested, do not get injured.
Last bit, if you want to check out at Jailworth, JAILWERTH, Muhammad Ali's grandson actually put out a statement and he picked up 5 of my pictures.
Oh, really?
So that's a statement from the family. It just went live yesterday.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, we definitely gonna be looking out for that. So thanks again for joining us, and you know, Black Power.
Thank you, love you. Black Power.